Oops. Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, in another video that's going to be a compilation of the very most useful sources in language that you can lay your hand on in order to empower a very high potentiality for your language skills. Let me catch my breath because I'm carrying a ton of books actually here for you. Let me tell you something. This collection of books that I gathered here, most of them actually I didn't buy. I just printed down downtown Baghdad. Some of them actually I got from the public libraries and bookstores in Watanabe Street. But I just thought that they might be very useful for you as an English teacher and as an English student and learner of language. Let's cut it short. Let's cut it short and get it started. The first book that I got from the Baghdad Book Fair, it's called the Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I made a story about it. It's very useful journal and for you who is starting his language learning career and journey. It's very good book. It's really very good book, and it just talks about a journal. Most of the time it talks in the present simple and past simple, so you get a lot of like verbs in this journal, and he is using very informal language, so keep that in mind. By the way, you can finish this book in a session or two, like 2-3 hours. You're done with this book, and it will just hook you up to the rest of the series. It's a wonderful series. It's called the Diary of a Wimpy Kid. If you're an English learner, it's edited by James Simpson. It's specifically dedicated and used in the academia field. It's the Routledge Encyclopedia, or the Routledge Handbook of Applied Linguistics. The good thing about this book is that it contains a collection of most wonderful articles that ever written in the field of English language teaching and English language applied linguistics and syntax, semantics, all walks of life that has to do with language teaching and language methodology. The good thing that I like about this book is that it's not written by one author, so you're not getting one specific cornered perspective of language. You get multiple perspectives on language, and a lot of actually the writers here, the authors of the compiled version of this textbook is or book, they don't show you the same perspective of language learning or language perception or language application or language teaching. So you get multiple perspective, you get a spectrum of perspectives on how language is taught and how language is learned. So this is a wonderful source for you if you're an English language teacher. I definitely recommend you get you lay your hands on this book because it's wonderful. The next book is called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's a kind of like motivational, personal improvement and development book, and it's by Stephen Covey. I like this author, Stephen Covey, because he's wonderful. He writes in very simple language, and his textbooks are most of the time bestseller textbooks in the world. But this is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is a book for self-improvement and self-development. You can find and come across a lot of stories from around the world that he's mentioning that's got to do with how you can empower yourself to become a better person, and how to develop self-motivation motor inside yourself that make you a more successful person in your field or in your career. Of course, magazines are something that nobody can get rid of. The world in 2017, it's The Economist. This is one of my favorite magazines that I constantly read in English because they are wonderful. They provide you with most current news and field of politics, media technology, photography, all walks of life. So I definitely recommend you get the source if you are an English teacher, because it just gives you a different perspective of life. Also, it's you can use this in your leisure time to read. It's going to be kind of like escape from the tenacity that you might encounter in your field of teaching, or boredom that you get in your field of teaching. The Best American Essays of Century, it's a book by Robert Tatwan. It's wonderful textbook. I'm almost done with the book. I've started this book reading probably 6 months ago, and I'm still reading it. Some of the stories I repeated reading them because they are wonderful. I definitely recommend this book for any starter of language learning or any teacher who hasn't come across this kind of source. It's wonderful for you. The next book is for English teachers. It's How to Teach Speaking. This is wonderful interactive textbook by Scott Thornberry. He's not a PhD holder, but the kind of succinct information that he is providing here would suffice for the purpose of getting a wonderful umbrellic perspective and generic perspective on how to teach language speaking in English. This is a must for English teacher who tries to embed more interactivity in the lesson and more interaction amongst the students. Wonderful source, please consider it. It's available in Iqra library in Mutanabi, downtown Baghdad. Teaching pronunciation is the definite source for all the masters and PhD holder in Iraq. Probably you're familiar with this book by Sels Mercia and Diane Larson, by Sels Mercia and Donna Brinton. This is a must for English teacher who is teaching pronunciation. You should read this book from cover to cover. Also, it comes with a CD that gives you a kind of heads up about what's inside the textbook. You need to consider that too. Listen to it intensively if you're an English teacher. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, it's a coffee shop book that you need to carry it on your book case or in your satchel in case you're going in a short leisure time break from work. Get this book in your bag with your laptop and start reading it. It's the Chronicle of Death Foretold. Wonderful book. It's a short story. Please consider it. 5 Minutes Stories Before Bed. It's a book that I just got. It's for kids actually. You can read to your kids before they go to sleep, but you can read it by yourself. You can try to record yourself reading it and listen to yourself reading it if you don't get a conversation partner. This is a textbook for kids, but teachers most of the time use it because it's stories that are famous worldwide. Please consider this book. You can get a copy of this in Baghdad Book Fair in Mansour today, because today is the last day of the book fair in there. Newsweek, one of my, sex, that's the title. I'm sorry, I didn't intentionally put it here, but I'm sorry, it just, Sex Slaves in America. This is the catchy title of Newsweek. Specifically in, Al-Rubai Street. There are some kiosks in the street in Rubai. They sell this kind of magazines. They are old versions, but they are a must for you to get a sense of how the world is run, politics of the world, very good documented stories by very famous authors from around the world. This is a must for you. The Ultimate Teaching Manual for English Teachers. Thinker, The Stuff of Thoughts. If you want to be looking at language from a different perspective, it's very challenging and difficult book. Earlier, it took me like 2 to 3 days to finish 1 page to 2 pages because it's dense, it's so much in there, there's a lot of philosophy going on. But when you start understanding how the author is thinking, you can watch this link. He talks about the language. You will understand what he's talking about in here. But first of all, I want you to watch this 15 minute documentary that he is talking about language and then you may start reading this book. Learning Teaching by Jim Scrivener. If you're an English teacher, definitely a must source for you. This is one of my favorite textbooks that I use in my teaching. It teaches you so many things about teaching that you never come across or you never thought of. So this is a must for you. Please consider it, and if it's not available in bookstores, you can download a PDF version. I'll try to post the link in case I come across it. But this is a must for you if you're an English teacher. A Course in Language Teaching, bookstore Mutanabi Street. You can find it in there. Read it from cover to cover if you're an English teacher. And my number one favorite source for language teaching is Teaching English as a Second or Foreign Language. We call this the Apple Book, and it's by Selsmercia et al. It's one of the most wonderful textbooks that I've ever written in language teaching. It gives you whatever you need in language in order to prepare you to be a successful language teacher. Please consider this book as the main encyclopedic source of language teaching. Read it from cover to cover. It comes in hardcover and it's very affordable. You can get it in Baghdad for like 10-15 bucks. Read it from cover to cover, and if you're starting a career as a master's student or PhD student, without reading this book, you're missing a lot about language. But this is the main source that I recommend. This is my number one in language teaching. Please consider it. Have a wonderful day. This is the English teacher, Walid Khalid. Looking forward to see you in another video that talks about some other sources in language learning and language teaching. Bless you.